Gatac's back is the name of this inside Star Citizen, and they literally just show the ship in the thumbnail, which is pretty crazy. So like they don't even surprise you, which is cool. It's cool looking. It's really cool looking. I think it's neat, so let's just jump into it. I want to see and hear more.
The first time I saw the concept of the Sulan, I immediately went over to Ben Curtis and asked him if I could make it.
By yourself?
By myself.
They said Gatac's back.
Michael Oberschneider did Raylan, and...
Is there a Gatac ship in the game? Am I crazy? But isn't the Raylan the only other one?
I scouted a lot in his old sketches and the first phase of the ship, and I found a pretty nice triangle sketch, and that's where we started from.
We really wanted to have this feeling of grandeur. It's a relatively small ship, but all its kind of stylings and its shape, language, and forms really are there to make it feel strong and impactful. And so we really tried to kind of push that as much as we can.
Why is it like that? Where's the cockpit? Wait. Okay, this is different for sure. Yeah, the cockpit looks like it's at the top.
The Gatac Sulan is Gatac's introduction to the civilian space market.
There's Xian, right?
Essentially, starter ship from an alien race.
It's kind of really defining what that manufacturer is for us.
It has everything any player needs to take their first steps in the universe. It can carry cargo. It's got onboard living quarters and a good selection of weaponry for a starter to not die immediately when you get out into hostile space.
When the player first sees the Sulan, we really wanted it to feel kind of just super imposing. It's got this...
It's super interesting that it lands this way, but I think it looks way better in any picture I've seen of it flying so far, like the thumbnail or at IAE on the posters. It looks way cooler when it's flying than it does like this, although this is just so unique and different.
It's an amazing stance where it's kind of towering above you.
The Sulan is almost this monolithic structure that will appear in your hangar, unlike anything you'll have seen before. It's very dominating, almost Sith-like, dare I say it.
With its vertical design, it looks completely different to any other starter ship that we've brought out before.
You'll notice it's a very...
I hate the word starter ship at this point.
Polished ship, very deliberate with all of its forms and shapes, but then when it comes to its mechanical structure, it's not like our manufacturers like Origin, where it's very high-end but exposed almost, more like Drake. So you'll see all the mechanisms, all the inner workings. As you approach the interior of the ship, you'll notice a little button on the side. You press that, and the wall of the exterior will cascade down into a set of stairs.
You'll be greeted by like this crazy Gravlev sort of animation where the sort of wall fractures and spreads out. Something rooted in the Xi'an lore about their trivial use of Gravlev tech, and just to be able to see it like sort of do something crazy that we can't do with most of the ships is really cool.
As you enter the ship, you'll be in what we call the...
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen that on the Scout forever. I imagine it'll be on the Santokai as well, right?
Airlock, or the ground floor. Kind of like
an engine. It just comes with a game package? That's not what it used to mean, guys. That's not what it used to mean. Okay?
They're in space, all the walls
Again,
feel
the
quite
definition
clean,
has
quite
changed
sleek.
over the years.
You'll get quite an unusual sense of the place because of the rock materials that you've got going on that feel very alien when you walk onto a spaceship.
All of the walls, the panels, fly out, separate, and reveal these crazy big component bays, an armor locker, and also a really cool weapon rack that pops out the wall using that cool grav tech we spoke about.
That's
in
pretty
between
neat.
Two of those component bays, you'll notice the lift embedded into the floor. It's got a really cool glass floor to it, and you'll notice a nice hover plate of Xi'an text, which we've kindly translated into English for you.
We wanted
thank
it to
you
feel
so
like
much.
it could be inhabited by both Xi'an and human. That was kind of like a design ethos we had. So you'll go on the elevator, which features both.
So once you use the lift to enter the habitation deck, you'll notice a really nice small space, quite simplistic, but that's kind of like how the Xi'an like it.
The Xi'an are very close to nature. We wanted to create this sort of like cave feeling in a couple of places. That was in the bed, and that's a really nice little area for you to lie down at the end of a journey.
Kind of like a hab almost, like the way...
I can't wait to die on that elevator. You got to figure it out.
Kind of is embedded into the
That's
wall.
That's probably going to be a problem. I didn't think about that.
I can assure you.
It's a lot warmer, a lot more inviting, yet through its materials, it still feels...
Bro, what about... Okay. I'm sorry. Everything they've said so far, whatever, you know, it's fine. What about any of this ship that is warm? What about any of the ship gives off warm? It's very cold. It's very rocky. It looks like a fucking cave. There's nothing warm about it. It seems like Nomad size. Yeah. And Nomad was when they decided to change what a starting ship was, right? I think doesn't a Nomad also have 3 size 3 guns?
Feels like a bit alien. On your left, you've got a bathroom.
You're talking to Lloyd about the bathroom, right?
The bathroom is, you could say complicated. I would say amazing in terms of design. It's definitely over-engineered.
Because he made it, I assume.
The first thing you will notice is this silver sink almost on the left-hand side.
Which will serve 2 purposes if you know a little bit about Xi'an lore. So Xi'an poop a little bit differently to humans, so they use that, we use our toilet. The whole door breaks into...
It looks like a urinal. So does anybody know about this lore? I don't know how they poop. But why do they shit in the sink?
A load of pieces. The toilet roll holder sort of assembles itself.
With the most elaborate animation, I think, that's ever been put into a video game for toilets.
And again, it was just sort of a show of what's trivial to them is like elegance and high-class design to us. It was just a nice little feature. We wanted to incorporate that, sort of how they would live if they were on the ship and how humans would live on the ship.
As you go up into the cockpit, you then have a full open space.
What I like to call the cathedral. The light cascades down and you see the seat presented to you almost like an altar.
Yo, if they only let gameplay people do whatever the fuck they wanted, like they let the artists, what would we have?
You enter the seat and you float up on your back, almost like you're about to launch into space on a rocket.
They let these guys just do whatever,
massive mechanism of plates assemble behind you using Gravtech to hold your seat in place. Really makes you feel like a badass just before you take off.
One of the best experiences in the ship is when you sit in that pilot seat and it kind of transforms and the ship moves around you to kind of put you up into a position within the canopy. With most of our ships, you sit horizontal to the...
You want to know what the coolest thing was that I saw so far? I'll try and pause it right on it.
You sit horizontal to the...
Hold up.
The ship moves around you to kind of put you up into a position.
Look at their UI. I know it's going to be with the line here, but I just see 4 buttons on either side with the name right next to them. Very easy to see, very easy to click. And just go, oh, I want to hail that ship. Click hail. Power, radar, just 1 button. Click. Not complicated at all. I really like the UI. That's so far been my favorite part. Also very... not quite, but the positioning of the UI the MFDs, very similar to the Aurora, which I like. Right and left, but it still allows you to see a lot of stuff.
Within the canopy, with most of our ships, you sit horizontal to the gravity plane.
That's been my favorite part so far.
You're sat on your back, kind of facing straight up to the stars.
The world is
which is good, because that's where you're going to spend most of your time in the ship, right?
Completely different angle, and it gives a completely different feel to the ship.
For the art team, the vertical takeoff was great. It was one of the things that we were like super keen on getting in from the very start. It may have caused a few headaches for some of the other departments that we work with. There was quite a few people that kind of doubted whether or not it was going to function. But visually, it gives such a nice kind of silhouette to the ship.
I like the fact that...
But we fought them because visually, it was the most important. It'll always show what is the most important thing here. I cannot wait until that changes. I cannot wait until the ship art teams are not the most important. And I don't know if that'll ever happen, but that's what was, again, so exciting about CitizenCon for me, is it felt like it sort of was. What was the worst panel at CitizenCon? The ship panel, in my opinion, at least. All the other panels were significantly better. And I think, and I'm hoping, that's my hopium for the year, is that there's a little shift going on there.
We were applying very traditional technology in space exploration to something so advanced.
Because that panel was an ad. Every panel was an ad. But what each team was selling you was entirely different. The ship team was selling you the same shit they always do. The other teams were selling you on these are the gameplay elements that we want to implement. These are the improvements to the current game that we want to implement. Right? We have it a way to share it with you. The things that we've done. Yeah, the ship team told us about the scanners. That's all we need to know about the scanners. They ain't getting fixed anytime soon.
Flying it is one of those things, the first time you take off in it, your brain has to do a bit of recalibration compared to every other ship in the game.
If you look at the stars, you will see them going from up to down and not from left to right.
Fundamentally, you still fly in the direction you're pointing. It's just that you land and take off essentially 90 degrees to what you are adjusted to. If you throttle forwards, you go up, but that's the direction the ship is pointed.
Obviously.
Why are they trying to explain this to... You get in the seat and you're pointed up. Is it really going to be that... I mean, they've flown the thing. Is it really going to be that weird? I feel like it's not going to be as weird as they're saying.
Xi'an used Gravtech quite a lot, and we wanted to make sure we leveraged that as much as possible. However, for things such as wings and thrusters...
When I press W, the ship's going to go in the direction I'm pointing, right?
I think it's really important that we keep that to a minimum.
Yeah, only landing
heavy,
is going to be weird.
Like, we can't rely on gravity to keep it on.
It has probably the most amount of maneuvering thrusters, I think, of a ship of this size, 24. That is simply to make it one of the most agile starter ships in the game and to cover the required maneuvering angles on a ship when it transforms. So once you've taken off and you retract the landing gear, the ship transforms.
One of the... Hold on. Let me tell you why the ship I just made is better than all the other ones.
Forms slightly into a more expanded state. The three main thrusters change angle, the wings change angle, and then this requires the maneuvering thrusters to sort of compensate for that. So the amount of thrusters the ship has allows it to be pretty agile regardless of state, regardless of atmosphere or space.
I'm going to say this, and maybe this will surprise you. I want this to be my starter ship. Without knowing its shield's capabilities yet, how much cargo? Zero? So the leaks were wrong? They were saying it was a cargo ship. Is it 6 or is it 0? 6 external, we think. We don't know. All right, well, if it doesn't carry any cargo, I don't want it. But in terms of just the way it looks, I was a 100i enjoyer and an Aurora enjoyer. This is very cool. Just visually, just to have something a little bit different to start with, I think that would be cool. And I think just because the internals have everything that you kind of want out of it. You got the bed, and it's got the multiple floors. I kind of like that. I don't know. It feels, you know what sells me on ships, guys. I think some of you know at least. And it's when the inside of the ship feels like it could be your home. I get sold on it. So for me, unfortunately, I think the Scout just performance-wise doesn't do anything. That I would want to use it for. I feel like it's slow. It doesn't have good guns. It doesn't have utility the way that you would hope a ship like that would. Bonus, I can piss in the urinal. Yep, true. So the Scout, I know a lot of people like the Scout. I don't want to knock on it. The Nomad, I hate out of principle. So I do not like the Nomad. Just because it was the start of the premium starter ships and just the bullshit. I'll always hate that ship. The 100i is pretty close to feeling like a home, but I think because you could see the cockpit from your bed, it's like a home office and it just doesn't feel right. Like the fact that each floor is separated, I think that's the only thing that I like about it. It's not the only thing. I mean, it's fucking beautiful, right? This is a work of art. I want to see the Aurora Mark II. Home offices are okay, sure. I live in one. I mean, I sleep right there. But I want to see what like the you can't call this a starter and not go back to the Aurora and Mustang Alpha and redo them. You know what I mean? Yeah, gold standard Aurora, exactly. We don't have a gold standard Aurora yet. When they go back in gold standard and Aurora, I want to see it get bigger, and I want to see what they do with the and I want it to start looking like the new RSI and everything, right? So I'm just, that's what this ship makes me think. If this is a starter, you got to go back. And you don't have to reinvent anything, really. You know, you have the tools now. You already know what these ships look like. I want them to go back. I want to see the Aurora Mark II. I don't care as much about the Mustang Alpha, but I want to see what they do with that, because the Aurora still holds a really important... It was my first ever ship that I purchased. It holds a big place in my heart. And I want it to be brought up to this standard. Obviously, this is alien. You know, visually, things won't compare to something as just unique and special as this. But from a functional standpoint of what a starter ship is morphed into, I want to see those ships be brought up to what this standard is. That's all.
Oh, I prefer the vertical takeoff.
Just because I love them.
The normal. It's just a completely different feel, and you can land in tighter spaces.
My favorite part of...
I just bought the game yesterday, got the Avenger Titan. Is it a good one? Okay, I hate the Avenger Titan visually, but yes, you got a good starter ship. It's got cargo, it's got guns, it's got a bed. I'm just talking about like really personal preferences of like visually and how it feels. You know, functionally, the Avenger's a great ship.
The ship is definitely the way it transforms out of landing mode into deployed. All of the wings fold back, so the landing gear is actually built into the edges of each of the wings. At night, it's even cooler.
Explain
all of the
GravTech.
headlights move around because they're all
works.
Animated on part of the wing, and so does the light pop out of the end of the landing gear, which lights up those big pieces.
Landing it requires a little bit of adjustment compared to traditional flight in Star Citizen.
I can imagine this is
deploy
going to be
your landing
ridiculous.
gears, you would. The ship transforms, the landing gear comes down. But instead of landing on your belly, you essentially...
I mean, we're going to be landing in third person, right?
Land on your behind.
It kind of gives the nod back to some of our classic kind of modern day space shuttles, but it kind of gives a real unique experience on takeoff and landing.
It takes a little bit of getting used to,
UI.
but the payoff is just the way the ship flies and
Yeah,
the silhouette
landing on
of it,
pads.
and just the unique feeling, making it feel real.
The colors, dude, are so cool. The bluish, the very white light with the red. It just, I mean, just everything about this looks so cool.
Really alien compared to our other
Serrata
ships.
videos incoming for sure. It's beautiful.
So being the first ship from the manufacturer Gatac that people were going to see in game, for me it was really important that it had a real impact
what
on the
price?
player.
I think players will appreciate the fact of how much you
Alien
managed to fit
tax.
into such a small platform.
So the
What do you
Cylon
guys think?
is pitched as a starter ship, but it sort of goes beyond some of our other starter ships. It has a lot of onboard living, so it allows you to do a little bit of exploration, a little bit of pathfinding.
It's
not as good as dedicated.
Did you just hear what he just said? It goes beyond some of our starter
How
ships.
much you managed to fit into such a small platform.
So the Cylon is pitched as a starter ship, but it sort of goes beyond some of our other starter ships. It has a lot of onboard living, so it allows you to do a little bit of exploration, a little bit of pathfinding. It's not as good as dedicated explorers or pathfinders, but it is sort of better than other starters in that regard. The big unique factor of the Sulan is simply the visual style, being an alien ship.
I think we've not had very many opportunities to really show off what we can do with our alien races yet, and so this for us was a real opportunity to really distinguish that ship from our more human manufacturers.
The overall feel of the ship is far, far different to any other that came before it.
Bro, here's the deal. If this is a Xi'an starter ship, we better not get into war with them, okay? That's all I'm saying. We better not get into war with them because they're going to destroy us.
We tried to build a bit of mystery on how this thing works.
That's all I gotta say.
It was quite exciting to try something different from the usual way
we did in the lore? No, we didn't. It was a Cold War.
We did spaceships.
The concept is completely striking, unlike anything I'd seen. Obviously, being a fan of vehicles full stop, regardless of whether they're a spaceship, ground vehicle, real or fictional, seeing this was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before, and I was desperate to be part of the construction of it.
Compared to our other starter ships, this is something entirely different, both flight and visual, and that sort of sets it apart from the others. If you just don't want to be run-of-the-mill Star Citizen player, then the Sulan is for you.
If you don't want to be a run-of-the-mill Star Citizen player. Fuck me, man. They are so shameless. It's so funny. They're car salesmen, 100%. This is every one of these guys. They sit them down and they turn them into car salesmen. Like most days, you know, they're working on these ships and they're doing, they're artists, they're modelers, they're whatever. But when it comes to ISC and IAE, they're car salesmen, guys. That's what they are. It's so funny.
The Crusader Spirit C1 is the cargo variant of the Crusader Spirit series. It swaps out the bomb bay, the central section of the ship, for a large cargo hold.
C1 Resident Sleeper. Let me tell you something. This is replacing my Cutlass, I'm pretty sure.
And it's really very much a purpose-built kind of cargo hauler. Just did a whole thing on the A1 at CitizenCon. It's basically that, but just with cargo.
Can you say that?
Nope.
Look, he goes, can I just say it? It's the A1, but it has cargo in the back? Yeah, just end it. That's all we need.
The Spirit C1 is the cargo hauler of the Spirit family.
This is Crusader Industries' Cutlass competitor.
Its closest competitors are the Cutlass Black and the Freelancer. They're all roughly about the same size, the same cargo capacity. Compared to...
Guys, Adam Parker is the first dev, I guess outside of Luke Presley, that ever hung out in my chat. When he was a wee QA lad at the time, but he would hang out all the time and play Arena Commander with us and make fun of me for how bad I was at the game and everything. He's a really cool dude.
Other cargo ships in the game.
I love Adam.
This sits in sort of the lower half of straight cargo capacity. Certainly compared to some of the other Crusader ships like the Starlifters that carry a huge amount of cargo, this is on the lower end. You can put 32 SU cargo crates in there, or you can put vehicles in there. It's not a dedicated vehicle hauler, but there are a lot of vehicles, Cyclone-sized and below, that will fit inside it. It utilizes that central room to...
See, John's not hyping this one up as much. He's like, yeah, it's the lower end of cargo ships, you know?
Essentially be stripped out and filled full of cargo, and it can carry them internally, which affords that cargo some protection. So compared to, say, a Hull A, which has the same cargo capacity, you are trading off the quick access of being able to put it on the outside of the Hull A for the security of having it on the inside of the Spirit.
For the styling of the Spirit, we try to keep that Crusader DNA in there, so it's all very like sleek, continuous paneling with like little pockets of like high-tech greeble
Hull A
in there.
bad, I got it.
It's a lot.
Hull A bad until... And Hull A not bad, by the way. Hull A is pretty good. The difference here, and the one difference that they don't mention, is there's always this, like, we don't really know, there's this unknown right now about cargo ships. And a C1 can take a 32 SCU container. A Hull A can't. Right? Hull A too slow. I love the Hull A. I like using it for all sorts of things. Right? But what you can't use it for is moving large containers. Hull A is one of my favorite ships, but it's definitely good for like salvage, right? Because it can hold the size of the boxes, and it being external makes it a lot easier to add them to the ship or whatever. Love that ship, but it's really hard to sell me on cargo right now, because cargo is the most, out of all the gameplay loops right now, would you argue that cargo is the most fluid? That's going to be changing the most over the next year? I think so. Cargo's the one that they've explained it a bunch, but there's a lot that we don't know still. So, how are these containers that we put stuff in made? How do we, what determines... I think we know what determines what size will be, right, is how much cargo you're buying for right now. But, yeah, there's so much unknown. I mean, at CitizenCon, we saw the guy pushing the cargo thing. So there's so many changes to come. I think that this year is going to be a big year about that. So we don't really know what's going to happen. Good point about security is very interesting too. Yeah, like on a Hull A, the stuff's on the outside, so you fill it up quicker. But how secure is it? Who knows, right? I want us to be in a place where you either have to shoot that cargo off and risk destroying it, or you have to be able to board the ship to turn off the maglev or whatever it's called that holds it on there. But I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm really interested in the C1, but I don't want to make any decisions or anything on what ships I fly.
Star Lifter in visual style. I'll try to take all the good elements and fun elements of that, compact it down into a not a small area, but a smaller area. So I stripped down the bomber variant of the Spirit,
Pilgrim.
Stretched out the floor detailing from the rear, especially the tracks, to make it suitable for vehicles to get in there. Made some big areas on the side so you can fit the really huge SCU containers on there. The walls, they've got a very specific shape, and that is so that those big containers can fit in there without hitting the edges. We're trying to keep that Crusader style in there as well. It's got some fun lighting in there to show off all the bits and gubbins.
It's all very nicely sandwiched.
You say nicely sandwiched?
Nicely sandwiched. So you've got the bread, which is the nice paneling, and then you've got the filling, which is all the nice black greeble. Greeble sandwich.
What's greeble?
Being a Crusader ship, the Spirit C1 is an elegant cargo hauler. It looks fast. It is fast.
It's weird. It is elegant, but it feels like more high-tech than elegant, right?
Well armored, well armed for fast transport of that valuable cargo.
Greeble's little details.
So on the exterior, the main difference on the C1 versus the other variants is we've cleaned up the top of the ship.
You'll notice that the roof kind of switches out. So the C1 has more of a sleek, simplified roof.
It's a little bit more aerodynamic.
So to help you load cargo in and out of the ship, especially those larger cargo crate sizes, there is a tractor beam turret on the rear of
How the fuck do they say this helps?
The ship that can transform
it makes
from
it so much worse.
Being on top of the ship to help you grab cargo to around the underside of it to help you actually physically load it into the ship and arrange it onto the cargo grids within.
You notice not a single one of them is moving the really large containers?
When we think about variants, I think it's
terrible.
Personally important that we're not just talking about kind of a loadout change and a tint palette change. For me, I think the more we can do with both the interior and the exterior to really sell the idea that this is a separate ship is kind of super important. With the Spirit, we've made some changes to the exterior and interior, as well as the normal loadout changes. And that, for me, just adds a little bit more value to what we class as a variant ship. It's not a case that we can always afford to do that for all of our ships, but where we can, that's the way we like to go.
So you've got the Cutlass Black for the Drake owners who like doing Drake things. You've got the Freelancer for the working class of the universe. And then if you want style and speed, then the Spirit C1's there. And you'll
the thing about this is, again, it's power creep again. So I guess I talked about cargo and we don't really know what's going on. But when you make a ship that can hold every single cargo container possible, this one immediately gains the advantage over all the others. Even though it can only hold 2, it's still... I think, okay, I love the way it looks visually. The 2 ships they've shown are beautiful. Does it, though? Yeah, because you can't break down. Here's the deal. That's what I'm talking about of not knowing about cargo yet. Is I can't break down a 32 SU container into smaller SU containers and then put them on my Cutlass, and then put them on my Freelancer, and then put them on my Hull A, right? So those are the ships that we're comparing it to. So if I go to Wake and there's a 32 SU container of Quantanium there, what? I can't take it with my Hull A. I can't take it with my Cutlass. I can't take it with my Freelancer. Can I? So, yeah, but only cargo Cutlass can at least fight better. This has 4 size 3s, right? Hull A is not doomed. Again, it's what I'm saying is we don't know enough. Like, can I break down cargo into other cargo containers, right? Can I open up the 32 SU container and put that stuff into a smaller container? Then it's not as much of an issue, right? Yeah. Nice.
look a lot cooler doing it too.
Just gotta keep running the air, I guess. Now the one I can care less about. Ground vehicles.
So one of the big questions we always
Citizen.
get is, what changed from the concept and to the production model? And I think
I explained it to Emmy about the Storm, and she was like, "Why use a ground vehicle when you have ships?" And she made me think a little differently. A little bit of it is like they're stealthy or whatever, right? But the thing that I still don't understand, and when I explained what they did more recently, is the idea of like the Nova tanks being able to see each other at greater distances, but not ships still can't see the Nova tank or other ground vehicles, but other ground vehicles can see themselves. That is the only way that you will be able to invent ground gameplay, right? I think that's like the secret sauce to making it work, because it never made sense to be able to or to want to use a ground vehicle over a ship, because ships are just so versatile, right? Like, I can fly really fast, I can nose down. I mean, and then tie that in with the control surfaces stuff of like not being able to always be nose down shooting at ships, whatever. So I think that's their idea behind that, is to manufacture ground gameplay with the radar systems, because they don't really have any other way of making it work.
Really, with the Storm,
like if you have a ground vehicle that can kill a ship, but a ship that can't see that ground vehicle easily, you're going to have to kill that ground vehicle with another ground vehicle. You know what I mean?
Alberto just kind of nailed the concept from day one.
I'm not going to say that in public.
The concept is so good.
Because my concept was so good. What? Why? It's so cringe.
I love that he's calling Jared's cringe.
The Storm is a light tank from Tumbril that values speed and agility over raw armor and firepower.
Tumbril Storm is a light scout tank, a single-seater.
It's the Nova's smaller sibling. It's fast, it's light, it's still heavily gunned.
It's very agile, good for recon. You can cut through canyons like a motorcycle, or you can go off jumps, and there's plenty of clearance for the player to be able to really let it rip and enjoy the terrain.
Visually with the Storm, we really tried to kind of push the futuristic feel of Tumbrel as a manufacturer.
I think the overall design feels very much like the Batmobile from the Christopher Nolan universe, and I love that look.
It does kind of look like that.
I think with the Nova, we played it fairly safe with the kind of the art style and the overall forms. Whereas with the Storm, we really want to do something a little bit new, show that Tumbrel could not only deliver kind of advanced weaponry, but visually they could kind of advance what they're known for. The big kind of selling point of the Tumbrel vision.
The car salesman is really coming out in the ground vehicle stuff.
Actually, for me, it's got to be the tracks and the track covers and those whole pods. They really kind of help to add a feeling of dynamic movement into the vehicle.
When artists are
so compared to the
gameplay
Nova,
to me,
the Storm has quite an interesting enter-exit mechanic. So the whole front of the tank opens up in some sort of mouth-like contraption.
The whole front of the tank opens up, and the seat kind of comes down, and it kind of swallows you in.
The player sits on the seat that's presented to them, and then is cocooned back within the ship.
Classic
when you kind
SC.
of get sucked into this seat and the doors all close around you, it's just quite a unique experience.
It's kind of like you're wearing it.
You could say it's kind of like you're wearing it. Yeah, it's kind of got that feeling of a mech, but just the head. If you want to wear a tank, the Storm's for you.
Okay, I see all of you guys like talking about the bugs with the ship that just came into the game like they're not gonna be dealt with in the chat. And it's like, how long have we been around here, guys? How long have oh, it clips through the ground. Comerl did some tests on it in the first patch. Right? Okay. Like these things aren't gonna get fixed? Of course they are. So, or at least addressed. Yeah, they're going to ignore it for a while. I just don't get why we bring that up. Like, that's not the actual problem here. When the actual problem is like, what's the point of ground vehicles in the first place? And why are they doing this and all that stuff, right? Outside of RP and rule of cool, I mean, ground vehicles are cool because of rule of cool. That's really it. So, yeah, that's just like, and I think whatever they do with the radar, that's the only saving grace for it. And it doesn't make sense, but it'll just make sense. That's way harder than fixing clipping. Again, it's a rushed out patch. What did you guys expect?
There's no walkable interior compared to the Nova, so
vehicle.
It's literally just you cocooned within inside the front of the tank.
And I think that really helps to make the vehicle feel super safe and secure
I heard
when
there
you're
was
inside it.
anti-air,
It
but
gives
they
you a
didn't
lot
show
of
it yet.
confidence that you're sat in something that's super strong and robust.
The driver controls the gun and everything aboard the vehicle, whereas the Nova can operate with one crew, but is best operated with two or three.
I know I'm pausing a lot, but they didn't dive into what they just showed yet. 321... Or 322, excuse me. 322, we got the settlements coming in. And ground vehicles at settlements, especially tanks with the amount of ground enemies there would be, might make some sense then, right? Like the scenario they just showed might make sense for like kill quests at these settlements. So
share the load between all the additional weapons. For ground operations, they're designed to work in tandem together. The Storms to push ahead of the main ground force, to do some reconnaissance, figure out where the enemy is, figure out their strength, engage them if they are engaged, but then the Novas will take over to do the actual heavy lifting of the damage and engagement.
What is
if
this
you're looking
made-up
for more
gameplay
speed,
he just made up?
more maneuverability,
He just made all that
Storm
up?
kind of sits in a good spot where it's not quite a Cyclone, and
He
it's
just
not
made that
quite
whole
a
scenario
Nova,
up. That
but
doesn't
it kind of
exist.
sits in that middle part.
The gun is really cool. That took Nathan a couple weeks to come across, but it's like one of his first projects with us. I think it was super successful.
Originally, it was supposed to be shooting bullets. We convert it into an energy weapon after the fact. It's just more expensive to fire bullets. I think when it comes to a laser repeater, dollars to donuts, you know, shooting energy is much more cheaper than shooting bullets and twice as effective, so.
Lasers twice as effective as bullets, guys. Confirmed. I don't know. It says who is the... Yeah, I don't know where that one came from.
The Storm AA trades out the bespoke top-mounted...
If that's the balance guy that said that the lasers are twice as better, I wouldn't be surprised.
Turret for a
I hope he's just an artist,
missile
though.
array. It contains a very large amount of size 1 missiles and a selection of size 2 missiles.
You can now fire more missiles on this than anything else in the game currently.
So we're still working out the final numbers for this at the point of recording, but it's safe to say it has a lot of missiles.
So all at once you can fire a huge payload at your target.
You wouldn't want to be a ship near that thing because it has so many missiles.
We try and envisage all the ways players are going to use these vehicles. We're always surprised by what ends up in reality.
Bro, okay, that's super cool looking, right? That's cool. Can we fix the fucking missiles in the game, please? The only reason that stuff feels like it's power creep is because missiles are really problematic, right? Like, there's so many scenarios where you can't avoid missiles. Can we please fix those before we continue to make ships with, like, 1 billion missiles on them, please?
So I think players are going to have lots of fun with this at sort of ground location like Ghost Hollow.
Because
it is a light tank. It is
super
pretty
powerful
quick for a ground vehicle, but it still feels really strong.
Whilst the Storm is essentially as wide as the Nova, limiting it to being able to be carried in some ships, it is much, much less tall than the Nova. So
yeah, this is cool.
A lot of ships, such as the Gatac, couldn't fit a Nova, can fit a Storm.
It fits in a lot more
stuff. I expect to see
stuff.
Storms popping up a lot more all over the place.
Bro, they said there's 2 weeks of IAE stuff. How are they going to top this week with the? I mean, the C1 I think everybody's seen for a while, but it's still I think one of the best ships they've made in a while. Like the 1 series of Crusader ships, I think they're really cool. And then I mean the Sulin or whatever is ridiculous. You think F7A incoming? That would be crazy.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the Tumble Storm, or as I like to think of it, the tank that you wear, is arriving at IAE this year and bringing with it an all-new anti-air variant. That the Spirit C1 joins the fray, hoping to give all those Cutlass and Freelancer mains out there a pretty stylish glow-up. And that tomorrow, Xi'an manufacturer Gatac tells the entire universe to hold its carrion and rotted leaves as it introduces a brand new starter to the mix. I could really use a nice 3D printed full color mock-up here. Wouldn't it look good? Yeah. If anyone's asking. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you. And we'll see you all here for IAE Part 2 next week.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to show. I bet you it's more concept stuff than straight to flyable. I mean, all that... I think that... Did we expect the Sulin to be straight to flyable? I think that was kind of a surprise to me, especially with the art at IAE from the PTU yesterday. I thought it was just going to be a concept ship.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that Tumbles... that an all-new anti-air variant... Nope. Learned that...
I've been there.
Enunciate. And do it again. And we'll see you all here, right here, here. So what did we learn this week?
If I melt my starter ship and buy a new one, do I keep my game
what
package?
What did we learn this week?
I don't know, actually.
Sometimes
Chad will help you with that one.
And sometimes you don't. The tank that you wear.
You do? Okay.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned now I'm out of breath. Is it? And we'll see you all here for IAE Part 2.
Oh, yeah, you CCU it. I mean, I was just answering his question, but yeah, you should just see. This is going to be more expensive than your initial starter, most likely. So
next week,
just see who it. Okay, so that was it. Cross chassis upgrade. Look it up on the pledge store. Look it up on YouTube. There's plenty of guides. But I've never done a CC, or I haven't done a CCU in years, so I don't know. But it's pretty easy. I'm pretty sure. So I mean that was the Sulin and the C1 and the Storm. I don't know, boys. I found my new starter ship. I love the way it looks. It's a Nomad, but better. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's just a Nomad, but better, and cooler, and more agile, and again, less cargo. Yeah, but I mean the Nomad's cargo is on the back. It's a pickup truck, so. How many times has somebody brought a Nomad to Jumptown? You know what I mean? So, but the C1 I think is going to replace my Cutlass too. This is two ships that I might replace what I currently use, because it's just so cool looking as a starter and just interior and everything. Although it was very cold. But the C1, I think, is definitely replacing, like, the Cutlass size cargo stuff for me. I just want to know more about why would I go with the smaller cargo ship versus a bigger one when most of the time flying is spent in QT and not QT, and bigger ships have more health, so you can survive longer. There's, like, I still haven't found the reason to care about the Cutlass Freelancer, now C1 kind of sized cargo ships for the moment, and I can't wait for cargo missions to see if they do that. Because for now, it still is kind of like, well, I guess it's engineering, right? Those ships should probably be much easier to fly as a solo player. The co-pilot should be less needed. Hull A, that is a solo ship, 96 SEU. So yeah, the engineering stuff I didn't think of until right now. So that plays a factor into it. But yeah, that was the end. Let me know what you guys think. But that Gatac ship is wild.